What's happened in Oregon at the moment regarding American voters has to tell us something about a nation and the apathy toward one of our most cherished privileges. Add to that a new discourse about cops arresting a man who's seen with a bloody face, and you have our Western trip to the water cooler. Always a pleasure to welcome back nationally syndicated radio talker based in Portland, Oregon, heard locally on the mighty 101 KXL. Lars Larson is back in the house. Good to see you again, Lars.
To see you as well, sir.
Here we go. Oregon all of a sudden has people talking about voting now because they want to link it to... Well, explain this whole issue here, because it would seem actually that it makes sense, but some people are saying, wait a minute, this is just about the Democrats wanting to get more votes.
And it is about the Democrats wanting to get more votes. So here's what you have. The former Secretary of State of Oregon, Kate Brown, proposed this. She wants to say that everyone who has any contact with the Department of Motor Vehicles, whether it's for an ID card or a driver's license, would be signed up automatically to vote when they hit the appropriate age at 18, and they would be registered as unaffiliated. That is, they would not be registered as a Democrat or Republican. They would have to make that change on their own. But under Oregon's vote by mail, every single one of these people would then get a ballot in the mail, even though they've expressed no interest in voting. And remember, in all the states with the Motor Voter Act, when you walk into the DMV and you get your driver's license, or you renew your driver's license, or you move to Oregon, they offer you the chance. They say, would you like to be registered to vote? All of these people who have not registered to vote simply said no when they were asked that question. No, I'm not interested, even though you could automatically be signed up to vote. So this is the Secretary of State. Well, now she's the governor, because, as you know, Oregon's had Democrat governors for a third of a century, and with all the suffering that comes along with that, high unemployment, big government, high taxes, and all the rest of that. But John Kitzhaber, who was inaugurated in January, resigned in disgrace last month, and the woman who took his place is Kate Brown. So the woman who originally proposed the idea of automatically registering everyone who has contact with DMV to vote has now signed her own bill.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm going to play devil's advocate on this. What's wrong with it? Because quite frankly, this country needs a civics lesson right now, because we fought for the right to vote, and most people don't even vote in this country. They let it go, and then they spend the next 4 years complaining.
You cannot instill civic virtue. It is not something that is injectable. It is something that people have to have. And if somebody has so little interest in voting that they don't even say yes at the DMV counter, and you automatically sign them up to vote, that does not mean that they will immediately go out and become interested and active and study the issues. In other words, these are people with less than zero interest in voting, and now they're going to be signed up, will get a ballot in the mail, and then they may mark the ballot, or they may say to their roommate or their spouse, they may say, well, I'm not interested in this, why don't you mark my ballot for me? Which is illegal, but it's nearly impossible to detect. So it opens up all kinds of opportunities. The other thing is a privacy issue. Right now, DMV records are relatively closely held. But the minute you sign people up to vote and put them in the voter registration rolls, all that personal information, name, address, and date of birth, goes into a public database that is available. As you know, if you're involved in a campaign, you can get a printout of all the registered voters, all the registered Democrats or Republicans, all the registered voters who voted in the last 3 elections. You can get a printout of that and walk a neighborhood. All of that data is now going to be made available, and I think it's a bad idea for privacy, and it's not necessarily going to encourage anyone to be more civically active just because they get a ballot in the mail.
Okay, speaking of votes, 30 seconds left. CNBC comes out with a report, says Rand Paul has filed to run for president in 2015 or 2016. Moments later, the Federal Election Commission came out and said, not true, he hasn't filed, hasn't happened. Simply put, 20 seconds, Lars, could Rand Paul really even win the presidency?
He could win the presidency. He has a lot of fans out there. I like the guy a lot on most of his issues. I disagree with him on some. Yes, he could win. The fact that he hasn't formally filed to run doesn't change the fact that you can tell he's certainly interested in running.
He will run. Let's be honest, okay? Just between us, I think we're just talking just you and me, nobody else. He'll run, right?
Yeah, he will run. The only question is, when does he file the paperwork? Nobody really cares in the public when he files the paperwork. The fact is, the man wants to become president, and he has some good ideas.
Got to be careful then when you kick that stuff out. All right, Lars Larson, 101 KXL in Portland, Oregon, nationally syndicated on the Compass Media Networks. Good talking to you, Lars. Take care.
Sir.
See you soon. The Beltway Entertainment Value and Mrs. Clinton's part in the circus. It's next up on Telling It Like It Is.